This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we're talking to Debbie Almontaser, who is the founding principal of the Khalil Gibran International School in New York until she stepped down before it actually opened. Debbie Almontaser is known as a builder of bridges between the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian communities in New York. But I wanted to turn now to neoconservative pundit Daniel Pipes. In April 2007, he wrote an op-ed for the New York Sun about Debbie Almontaser's appointment that helped spark the campaign against her school. In an interview for the New York Times website, Pipes was questioned about some of his claims.
I worry that the intensive instruction of Arabic brings with it, in many cases, political and religious indoctrination.
You referred to it in your first op-ed piece that ran in the New York Sun as a madrasa. Was that a bit of a stretch?
Yes, it was a bit of a stretch. It was intended to get attention. Basically, that was correct in the sense that madrasa is a school where Islam is taught, and my fear was and is that the Khalil Gibran International Academy is a school where Islam is taught.
What have you learned about it that is concerning to you?
One learned about the application for a halal dining room. One learned about the advisory board, which is exclusively made up of religious figures. One learned about the illustrations and the expectations of the school and its promoting Islamic culture, all of which left me feeling queasy. Then one later learned about the personnel, their connections to radical Islam. When I look at some of the proponents of the school, like the Council on American Islamic Relations, like the Council on Islamic Education, I see the standard Wahhabi lobby members promoting radical Islam in now a public school. And I say no.
Daniel Pipes being interviewed by the New York Times reporter who did the major piece on Sunday, Andrea Elliott. Debbie Almontaser, your response, madrasa.
Well, madrasa is simply school. It is a translated word in Arabic, and it's unfortunate that it's developed a negative connotation in this day and age based on the fact that there are madrasas in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and what have you, that teach a certain ideology. And certainly the Khalil Gibran International Academy was not going to teach any ideology. It was a school that was going to be teaching young people to become global citizens, teaching them tolerance and cultural diversity, and helping them to develop for the 21st century workforce, where there will be plenty of opportunities on an international level for them to compete for the most competitive jobs.
And the other allegations of Daniel Pipes?
Well, there are many that, that he was able to put together by distorting quotes that I was quoted in multiple newspapers, the award, from CARE, the allegation that I'm connected, to a terrorist organization such as CARE. And quite frankly, these are all allegations that are moot and really have no basis whatsoever. CARE New York is one of the most prominent civil rights organizations in New York City, as well as across the country. The president of CARE sits on the Human Rights Commission of New York City. He was appointed by Mayor Bloomberg. So if Mayor Bloomberg has no issues with working closely with CARE, I don't see why anyone should have any issues. CARE, unfortunately, has been targeted because it is fighting for the civil rights of Arabs and Muslims. And, this organization, as well as other organizations fighting for civil rights of Arabs and Muslims, is very much needed. There is a national growing trend of anti-Arab, anti-Muslim sentiment that is targeting, Arabs and Muslims across the country. If I can be a target, someone who has developed many relationships across the city, across the country, anybody could be a target.
In this clip on the New York Times website, the New York Times reporter Andrea Elliott questions Daniel Pipes about his accusations of calling you an apologist for the 9/11 attacks.
I was worried about Ms. Almontaser because of statements she'd made and affiliations she had, all of which suggested to me that she is someone sympathetic to radical Islam or is herself an Islamist.
You have referred to her as a 9/11 denier on the basis of a quote she gave, which was, quote, "I don't recognize the people who committed the attacks as Arabs or Muslims." You did not cite the second part of the quote, which was, "Those people who did it have stolen my identity as an Arab and have stolen my religion." Why didn't you include the second part?
I think I'd be happy to include the second part. I think all of it is of a piece of denial. They have not stolen her identity. They have not stolen her religion. What she needs to do is denounce them and say that what they represent is Islam in its worst form. They are not non-Islam. To deny that Osama bin Laden is a Muslim is sheer hypocrisy. Osama bin Laden is a Muslim. And to say that he has stolen Islam or hijacked Islam or is not a Muslim is false.
Deborah Almontaser, your response.
My response to that is I chose to be an educator, not a politician, to create a platform that I need to condemn every little thing or huge thing that happens across the world. The school was about bringing young people together, providing them with a high-quality education to become global leaders. For Mr. Pipes to use that quote, as I had mentioned earlier, this is a prime example of the distortion, and to make it seem that I'm a sympathizer is quite ridiculous. If anyone, can say that they felt and understood what September 11th was, I could certainly be one of those people. My son, who's a National Guardsman, served at Ground Zero for 6 months. He was deployed on September 11th with his unit to be a part of the rescue and cleanup mission. So for him to call me a sympathizer or a denier is quite ludicrous, because this is my country, this is my home, this is where I've chosen to live, and I am entitled to all the rights and civil liberties that others have. And for me, to be targeted as one, that has to speak on everything is quite unfair. This is not the profession that I chose. I chose to be an educator, not a politician. And it's unfortunate that, Arabs and Muslims are constantly, pigeonholed into this situation, that they have to, show their loyalties by condemning everything that happens. We deserve to be able to live our lives like everybody else. We should not have to, prove our loyalty at, every time something happens, because this is our home as well.
Debbie,